Yeah. Good evening. The time is 7:32 on November 17th, 2025. I'd like to call to order the November meeting of the Common Council, special meeting, actually. Clerk, if you'll please read the roll. Please rise and join me in pledging allegiance to our nation's flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you for that gentle nudge.
Mr. Goldstein,
Here.
Mr. Lopez,
Here.
Ms. Najolski Eichner, Ms. Smith. Here. Ms. Ayers. Present. Mr. C.
Present.
Mr. Wiggins,
Here.
Ms. Young. Here. Ms. Edie. Here. Ms. Wennerstrand. Here. Ms. Dunn. Here. Mr. Sutton,
Present.
Mr. Freer,
Here.
Ms. Shanahan, Ms. Najolski Eichner, Ms. Shanahan. We have 12, we have a quorum.
Okay, we have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes of regular meeting of October 28th, 2025. Do I have a motion? Ms. Young, are there any corrections, deletions, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as submitted? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have public participation. James, is there anybody wishing to address the council on an item that is on the agenda?
Diane Cece.
Okay, Ms. Cece, you raise your hand, you have the floor.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can.
You can hear me? Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Diane Cece, Olmsted Place. I'm speaking tonight on item C1 under Economic and Community Development agenda. The resolution to approve joining the Connecticut Municipal Development Authority. Before I begin, I wanted to make the full council aware, in case you're not, that this item came before you tonight without a committee vote. The Economic Development Committee did not review the final version of this resolution and the program in public, and no vote was taken to advance it. Instead, it was placed on the agenda solely at the discretion of the committee chair, which he has the authority to do. But for a resolution of this magnitude, I think bypassing the committee review, which happens in public, should be of concern to you folks and to residents. I'm also here because I think that you really need to take a look at reading the resolution itself very carefully and recognize that the resolution is being presented as if it's an opportunity that we need to act on right away. But in reality, there's no deadline to join this quasi-governmental authority, which, by the way, has a few different, I think there's 3 different names that it goes by now. So that's creating some confusion as well. But you should know that after a full year of this program being out there, that only 26 out of the 169 cities and towns in Connecticut have opted in. That alone should give you pause and ask why the overwhelming majority aren't signing on to this. Major concern should be that Norwalk is being asked to authorize a significant shift in development planning and authority after only one public hearing, which is the statutory minimum. A single hearing is not adequate when the proposal would allow the city to enter long-term redevelopment agreements with state-level authority, all for the sake of a very limited pool of available funds. Once we join, there is no requirement for future public hearings when development districts are created or when binding memorandums of understanding are negotiated. This resolution authorizes the mayor to enter those agreements without additional council approval. There's an enormous delegation of power and with no guardrails. The resolution also allows the creation of one or more quote development districts, but provides no information on where those districts might be, their size, or what
30
types of
seconds remaining.
projects they may contain. I'm sorry?
30 seconds remaining.
Really? I actually timed this for 3 minutes. Are you sure? Because I have a bunch more. If you could check that, I'd appreciate it.
I am timing as you speak.
Let me see if I can condense this. The resolution allows the creation of one or more of these districts. According to the executive director of the CMDA, a primary purpose is to ensure developers and cities can bypass state permitting requirements when creating housing in transit districts, but they don't identify which permit requirements. And no doubt some of those would include the environmental impact and major traffic generator studies. We're effectively being asked to approve a blank check with the details to be decided later, much of which will be outside of the public view. Perhaps most importantly, Connecticut's primary housing challenge is affordability. We all know the gap, we all know the need, but there's nothing in the statute that requires the development of any affordable housing, not even one unit. The mission references residential housing, but not affordability, income levels, or protections against displacement. Without affordability requirements, the emphasis on dense and transit-oriented development opens the door to increased market rate construction that strains our infrastructure while doing nothing to help working families or
You are over
residents.
4 minutes.
All right, let me wrap up. I'm sorry. So given that there's no time pressure for you to join, and this is coming before you without the actual committee vote to advance it to you, I would suggest, and I'm asking tonight, that you table this item, that you actually send it back to committee where a full review of the program, which has now been modified since the public hearing, can happen under public review in the committee, and then it can come back. And I would say that you should do this to make sure that affordability requirements are clarified or negotiated, that there.
Like your time as speaker has gone over 2 minutes.
Anybody else, James, that wishes to comment?
There are none, Mr. Mayor.
Don't assume there's anybody in the audience that wishes to address the council. Okay, that brings us to resignations and appointments. There are none. And that brings us to the mayor's remarks. So as you know, nearly 2 weeks ago, we had our municipal election. It's the highest voter turnout in Norwalk in decades, well over a decade. And I want to congratulate the people that were part of the process. They worked very hard when it comes to early voting, when it comes to absentee ballots, when it comes to staffing levels and so forth. Obviously, Rick McQuaid, our town clerk, did a remarkable job. Stuart Wells, Democratic Registrar of Voters, and Dino Christopher, Republican Registrar of Voters. They ran a really smooth operation, and just want to thank them for their commitment. And to the poll workers and volunteers who dedicated their time. I know it was rather a lengthy process, a lot of hours put in, and again, I think it was run very smoothly, and the results of having so many people vote in this election, it speaks for itself, speaks for themselves. I want to congratulate Mayor-elect Barbara Smith, who is going to be taking office very soon. She ran a very good campaign, and we appreciate her hard work and her dedication to the city. Also, the elected members of the Common Council who are re-elected, and members of the Board of Education who were re-elected. But I also want to thank the members of the Board of the Common Council that will not be running again and who have served really, really well. Doug Sutton from District D. Thank you, Doug, for your service. Of course, you'll have another meeting here, so I'm just kind of a little premature. Heather, thank you for your service to the committee, to the community in District D. Lisa Shanahan, who represented District D, will not be running. Thank her. And Nora Najilski-Eichner, a council member at large. Those are the 4 members of the council that have opted not to run or to seek another term. And again, thank you all for all that you've done. And in fact, congratulate the members of the council that did get reelected. And Again, maybe a glutton for punishment, right? But also, thank you, again, thank you. So now we have some holiday fun updates in Norwalk. Families with children 8 and younger are invited to join us on Saturday, December 6th from 8:30 to 10 a.m. at City Hall for our annual pancake breakfast with Frosty. That's another event that is really a family-oriented event, and it's a lot of fun. You can register online. In addition to pancakes, there'll be hot chocolate, photos with Frosty, and a lot of holiday fun. We're hosting our annual City Hall tree lighting ceremony on Friday, December 5th at 6:30 p.m. We're also hosting our 4th annual holiday extravaganza on 50 Washington Street. This year, Santa has been briefed on how to rappel safely. So we don't have a problem like we did last year and scare the young children. But be rappelling off of 50 Washington Street, and I guess he's in training right now. There'll be a tree lighting ceremony and meet and greets with holiday characters and the unforgettable spectacle of the surprise of Santa and the surprise characters. I don't know who the other characters are, but they're in training as well. And stay tuned for more announcements about other holiday events. And under the assumption that we may not be having our 2nd meeting in November, I want to wish everybody a very happy, healthy, peaceful, loving Thanksgiving with family and friends, and make sure that this is a year that we give thanks where thanks is due. A lot of people in Norwalk and around the area have food insecurity, and they're not going to be able to enjoy something that we all take for granted sometimes, the abundance of things. So if you can, reach down into your pockets, sponsor a family so that everybody can enjoy Thanksgiving in this wonderful city that we have. So now I will turn it over to the president-elect. Or perhaps, President-elect. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor,
You want to
and
run?
still council member.
You sure you don't want to run for president?
Not at all. I do have one announcement that indeed the November 25th meeting will be canceled. And so happy Thanksgiving to everyone. The last meeting of this common council will be December 9th. We will not have a meeting during the week of Christmas. And so, happy Thanksgiving. And on that night, on the 9th, we will say goodbye to our outgoing members. So tonight's consent calendar now, I will turn over to Councilmember Josh Goldstein.
Recreation, Parks, and Cultural Affairs. 1, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into an agreement for the use of Veterans Park and the immediate surrounding grounds by Norwalk Seaport for their Oyster Festival to be held on Friday, September 11th, 2026 from 6 to 11 p.m., Saturday, September 12th, 2026 from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Sunday, September 13th, 2026 from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., setup time by 8 a.m., August 14th, with teardown by September 30th, 10 p.m., approximately 35,000 people. 2, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into an agreement for the use of Taylor Farm and immediate surrounding grounds by Friends of Norwalk Dogs for their holiday party to be held on December 21st, 2025 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., approximately 70 people. 3, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into an agreement for the use of Brian McMahon High School and immediate surrounding grounds by Club Connecticut for their Boston Build-Up 10K to be held on Sunday, January 4th, 2026 from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., approximately 125 people. 4, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a sole source purchase order to M.E. O'Brien and Sons for playground equipment and installation at Fox Run School in an amount not to exceed $154,805.92 from accounts noted. 5, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a sole source purchasing order to Spring City for the purchase of 50 LED light pole fixtures in an amount not to exceed $279,800 from account number noted. These poles will replace existing poles and fixtures at Calf Patcher Beach. 7, authorize the Director of Recreation and Parks to issue change orders in an amount not to exceed $41,515 with Greenway Property Services for grant project 4463R Norwalk Urban Trails Project from accounts noted. 8, B, Public Safety and General Government. 1, technical correction to action item approved during October 14th Common Council meeting. Technical correction section. In accordance with section 3, compensation paragraph A of the agreement, the annual compensation limit should have been increased in years 2 and 3 of the term to coincide with the agreed hourly rates. Year 1, not to exceed the amount of $388,000. Year 2, not to exceed $400,000. Year 3, not to exceed the amount of $412,000. The Norwalk Police Department is requesting a technical correction to the compensation paragraph A with all city management services for public crossing guard services to remain at an hourly rate of $41.06, with the annual sum not to exceed the amount of $412,000. Funding is currently available for 2025-2026 fiscal year in account number noted. We are requesting the following authorization. A, authorize Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute an extension agreement with all city management services under RFP project number 4280 from August 22nd, 2026 until August 21st, 2027, based on the availability of funds not to exceed $412,000 per year from account number noted. B, authorize the City of Newark purchasing agent to execute purchase orders on behalf of Newark Police Department to all city management services under RFP project number 4280, based on the availability of funds not to exceed $412,000 a year from account number noted. C, economic and community development. 2, authorize the Director of Transportation, Mobility, and Parking to execute orders on the contract with Kelowna Concrete for the Hospital Hill Village Safety Enhancement Project for a sum not to exceed $160,000 to complete the above referenced projects and create project limits that better align with future paving. Account number noted. D, land use and building management. 1, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Rings End Inc. as the sole source provider for the purchase of replacement doors and hardware for the Newark Concert Hall for a total not to exceed $89,640. Funds are available from the following accounts noted. 2, authorize Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute an amended license agreement with the Fairfield County Makers Guild for the use of an additional 528 square feet at 3 Belton Avenue at a licensing fee of $4.50 per square foot for a revised rental payment of $5,940 per year or $1,485 per quarter. 3, resolved that the Newark Land Use and Building Management Committee is hereby established as the building committee with regard to the Columbus School at 46 Concord Underground Storage Tank Removal Project. Resolved that the Newark Common Council hereby authorizes at least the preparation of schematic drawings and outline specifications for the Columbus School at 46 Concord Underground Storage Tank Removal Project. Resolved that the City of Newark Common Council, City Council, authorizes the City of Newark Board of Education to apply to the Commissioner of Administrative Services and to accept or reject a grant for the Columbus School at 46 Concord Underground Oil Tank Removal Project. 4, resolved that the Newark Land Use and Building Management Committee is hereby established as the building committee with regard to the Nathan Hale Middle School Asbestos Abatement Project. Resolved that the Newark Common Council hereby authorizes at least the preparation of schematic drawings and outline specifications for the Nathan Hale Middle School Asbestos Abatement Project. Resolved that the City of Newark Common Council authorizes the City of Newark Board of Education to apply to the Commissioner of Administrative Services and to accept or reject a grant for Nathan Hale Middle School Asbestos Abatement Program. God, almost forgot. 5A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Red Thread for $377,540.44, plus a contingency in the amount of $8,000 for the purpose of providing FF&E for the Newark Community Recreation Center. Account number noted. B, authorize the purchasing agent to execute a purchase order to Total Fitness Equipment for $59,932.50, plus a contingency in the amount of $5,000 for the purpose of providing FF&E for the Newark Community Recreation Center. C, authorize the purchasing agent to execute a purchase order to Audiovisual Technology for $5,141, plus a contingency in the amount of $1,000 for the purpose of providing FF&E for the Newark Community Recreation Center. Account number noted. D, authorize the purchasing agent to execute a purchase order to Hertz Furniture for $2,526.68, plus a contingency in the amount of $750 for the purpose of providing FF&E for the Newark Community Recreation Center. Account number noted. 6A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with O'Riordan Magani Architects LLC for architectural services for the Calf Pasture Beach Camp renovation project for a total not to exceed $119,480. Account number noted. D, authorize architectural design contingency with O'Riordan Magani Architects LLC for the Calf Pasture Beach Camp renovation project for a total not to exceed $11,948. Account number noted. 7, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with AV Tucci Inc. as the construction manager for Westport Avenue Fire Station, Station 4 renovation and expansion project. Terms of the agreement shall include the following: pre-construction phase services, including reimbursable allowance, $12,000. CM fees, percent of total trade bids, 5%. CM contingencies, percent of total trade bids, 6%. Following the bidding process, the final contract, GMP, will be submitted to the City Council for approval. 8A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Riley, to execute the guaranteed maximum price, GMP amendment, with Newfield Construction Group LLC for the Marvin Elementary School HVAC improvement project in the amount of $2,981,136. Funds are available in account noted. B, authorize the Office of Building Management to issue a change order on contract for a total not to exceed $298,113. Funds are available in account number noted. Final push, guys. E, Finance and Claims Committee. 1, narrative on tax collections dated November 2025. 2, monthly tax collectors report dated September and October 2025. 3, approved claims committee report dated October, November 2025. 4, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Riley, to execute an agreement with FAPS Holdings, Inc., DBA as Govolution, LLC, for project 4446 payment processing services for at total per fiscal year $3,500, account number noted. 5, resolution. Approve a special appropriation totaling $200,000 for the city's contribution to the free meals program for Newark Public Schools. Funds to be transferred from the general fund balance account noted to the Newark Public School Lunch Fund account noted. 6, authorize the appropriation of $3 million in the Municipal Grants and Aid Fund 58 for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026, in the following amounts for the following purposes: Transit District Grant, $610,885. DBW Snow and Ice Removal, Chemicals, $450K. DBW Central Fleet Maintenance, $230,000. DBW Operations Full-Time Salaries, $1,709,115. Total use of municipal grants and aid, $3 million. 7, authorized to allocate $3 million to the Newark Public Schools account noted for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026 from the following general fund accounts: Transit District Grant 017002 5B020, $610,885. DPW Snow and Ice Removal, Chemicals, account number noted, $450,000. DBW Centralized Fleet Maintenance, $230,000. DBW Operations Full-Time Salaries, $1,709,115. Total transfer, $3 million. 8, resolution to authorize the establishment of the Recreation and Sports Activities Account, Recreation and Parks Fund. The account shall include revenue sources and program expenditures as defined in the Recreation and Sports Activities Program, document dated October 30th, 2025. Account funds shall not lapse and shall not be available exclusively for purposes identified in the program document. The Director of Recreation and Parks shall report to the Board of Estimate and Taxation and the City Council on the status of the account prior to April 1st of each year. And that, thank the Lord, is the end of the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein, for the speed reading version of
Side
the
effects included.
consent calendar tonight. You've heard the consent calendar. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstentions, and that carries. Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. That brings us to item 7A6, I believe. Ms. Young.
Yes, ma'am. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into a contract with Greenway Property Services for grant project number 4463R, Norwalk Urban Trails Project, in an amount not to exceed $724,828.50 from account numbers noted. And so we would move that item.
You wish to speak on it?
I do, but we also have Mr. Robert Stowers, who's the Director of Recreation and Parks on the line, as well as Ken Hughes.
Mhm.
And so this is about the project at Woods Pond Park. And so I know that that is part of Recreation and Parks responsibility. And so one of the things that we found very needed and would make a great impact is that we did some improvements to the park. But I also know that Robert Stowers and staff have had conversations with residents, and so we have not just thrust this upon people, although we have some questions about it. But I know that Recreation and Parks is taking every effort to make sure that the improvements are as minimal and to the liking of the residents. They'd like to keep that the sense of it being, I don't want to call it a forest, but to keep the natural aspects and aesthetics to the area as much as possible, but also making the necessary improvements. So we have Mr. Stowers on the line and Mr. Ken Hughes, if they want to speak to that.
Yes, fellow council, and Ms. Chair. We are very cognizant of a master plan that was passed a couple of years ago. And we're doing our best to try to follow that master plan. That master plan, of course, had a lot of public engagement, a lot of input. Surveys were done, focus groups were done, and one of the top facility asked for the public in terms of the natural area were trails and multi-use trails and paths. We looked at some city property that was still available, and there's not a lot of city property out there to acquire or to make parks, but we did locate in a series of city properties in concert with the economic development, and we looked around, and we found two sites that had the makeup of urban forest, and that was the Lakewood site and the East Rock site. We then looked for funding, and we were able to secure funding through the state, $700,000 grant, and for these trails, and as a result, we held two public meetings in the communities, and then we also held a community meeting at City Hall. During the first meeting, we got a lot of input, and we made a lot of changes based upon what the public's input was, and we made some significant changes. So we went back to the public with a community meeting here at City Hall, and we showed them all the changes that were made. After that, we had quite a few questions from the public, residents, and some officials, and we think we've answered the questions satisfactorily. And as Ms. Young said, we are trying to work with the public to make sure that those communities that we mitigate their concerns. Ken he's been our project manager, and maybe he can go back in more into detail about some of the mitigations we did.
Sure. Good evening, members and members of the council. So as Robert stated, what you have before you are trail designs for two sites, actually. The Lakewood site's approximately 5 acres, and the East Rock site, which abuts right to Woods Pond, is about 18 acres in total. As Robert did state, we did have 2 community meetings where we did take input from community members. We sent a direct mailing to all abutting property owners to make sure that any interested parties knew about the meeting and the opportunity for input. And on the Woods Pond site specifically, we made the most changes. After the first set of meetings, we heard from the residents about parking concerns and also about the size of the project. So we went back to the drawing board, and then we basically cut the trail project down in half, and we removed any ancillary parking areas. So now the only parking that we're using is the existing parking lot over at Woods Pond. I did spend about an hour walking the site with one of the neighbors who did have some concerns. And so we went through some fencing ideas and other things to make the project more palatable on their behalf. So, I'm here to answer any questions you guys may have. We've been working on these designs for almost a full year now. And, we went through several iterations, and I think we finally hit the nail on the head on what will serve the community well.
You have any questions for Mr. Stowers or Mr. Hughes?
Yeah, actually, I have several. And some of which, you know, we've already talked about. And so, Robert and Ken, I want to thank you both for walking that, that trail with me and addressing some of the concerns that, you've already talked about, with the property owners who abut. And, you know, creating those buffers, which I think is really great. Couple other questions that have come up, is one around the wildlife and the endangered, some of the endangered species there. So, I have a couple questions. So this is one of them. You know, what are we doing, you know, in terms of protecting the wildlife there?
Sure. So part of the parameters of the grant is I had to file an application through the Natural Diversity Database through the state of Connecticut, which I did. So they reviewed, they received a set of plans and our intent for the property. So they did review the property. They did notify us of the possible existence of a box turtle on site. So their recommendation was to keep any construction out of the April to, don't quote me on this, September timeframe. But I do have those dates sent to me by the state of Connecticut.
Yeah, you know, we have a no turtle crossing in that area, and we often see those turtles right there on the street. So,
Yes.
so that's good to hear. Another question that has come up is in terms of, you know, maintaining the trails. So what is the maintenance plan for the trails?
Sure. So we're going to treat these trails the same way we do up at Cranberry Park. So we'll have staff that'll visit the trail, you know, once every week and a half. They'll walk through the trail, you know, pick up any litter. We do have garbage cans already purchased for the parking lot and for the trail. And as you know, we also plan on installing a set of gates on the existing lot so we can close this site off when it's not in use. But having this site opened up with the trail system is going to make maintenance a bit easier on our side, because now staff will actually be able to access the site. You know, and what we found in our experience, when you bring programming to a site that previously has not seen any programming, we notice graffiti going down, litter going down, because now you have users who have a vested interest in the site, and they serve as our eyes and our ears. So we're looking forward to, you know, to this project.
And there's been talk about, you know, organizing a neighborhood group, Friends of
Absolutely.
Woods Pond.
Mhm.
Keep an eye on things. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
we have organized a Woods Pond group that we're trying to negotiate a friends agreement, as we have with the Friends of Norwood dogs, and we're also trying to solidify an agreement with Friends of Cranberry as well. So yeah, we're trying to do that. Also, in terms of maintenance, you know, we've really been focused on our urban forest in tree maintenance, and so our staff and our arborists, along with DPW, are working out even a more intricate plan to maintain trees here in Norfolk.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor of the item? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Young, that brings us to 7A8.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Authorize the establishment of the Recreation and Sports Activities Account. The account shall include revenue sources and program expenditures as defined in the Recreation and Sports Activities Program document dated October 2025. Account funds shall not lapse and shall be available exclusively for the purposes identified in the program document. The Director of Recreation and Parks shall report to the Board of Estimate and Taxation and the Common Council on the status of the account before April 1st of each year. That item?
Yep.
So I'm not going to speak too much to this. I also, my council member, Jim Freyer, who runs the Finance Committee, also has some involvement with this, as this was an item on your committee as well. But we also have Jared Schmidt, who is our Finance Director, and Robert Sowers, who may have some comments. So Jim, if there's something you'd like to say about this.
Yeah, this did come before the Finance Committee, and Mr. Schmidt and I have discussed this to some degree. And we believe that this is just a really positive step that we're taking to match our expenses and our revenues together. Heretofore, we knew what the expense was for different fee-based programs, things like the swimming, for example, where we offer a swimming program, we have to go out and spend money for a swimming coach or swimming instructor. We also may have fees associated with that, but we kind of lose track of what that fee goes with what expense. Now we will be able to track those expenses and revenues together, and we'll be able to manage these programs a lot better. And I think we can offer the public a lot more benefits because we know exactly what it is. We may be able to increase the benefits because we may see that we have revenues that support some of these programs that we have ongoing. So I think it's just great for visibility and transparency of how we're spending the money and give us the ability to even increase the spending in certain projects that are popular. I think also this is a good example for something that we might want to do in other areas where there is revenue associated with some of the expenses that in the programs that we're offering. So I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Smith or Mr. Stowers to give us their impressions on what they feel about this.
And before they do, I just want to say that this is the right direction for us to go in, because I'll have to say that the Recreation and Parks over the last 5 or 6 years has done a fantastic job in increasing revenue. And so I think it speaks volumes to not only the work of the committee, but being able to provide opportunities that our residents want to take part in. And so I think it speaks to that as well. And so this can only help us elevate what it is that we provide to our residents. So I'll turn that over. Mr. Schmidt?
Any?
Hey,
I think, I don't know if Mr. Schmidt wanted to say anything.
yeah, good evening. I don't have too much to add to what Mr. Frere said. If you want, I could do an overview of the highlights, but we've been before 2 of the committees, and but I'm happy to take questions on any of the details that anybody might have.
Ms. Sayers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a general question. I am in favor of this item, but in the nature of transparency and access to information for all constituents, more of a statement, not a question statement. Is there any possible way that this information could be put in a tangible format for residents so that they don't have to go and dig through the budget? They don't have to go and get lost on our website. I think we were in caucus and someone brought up the dashboard that I don't know if we are currently using or not. But I think for those of us who knocked on doors and talked to constituents, one thing that resonated throughout this last cycle that we completed was that we need to work better on communication and access to information. I don't want this council to ever sit in a position where we are the gatekeepers of information or that people have to come through us for information. I don't think that's serving the community in its best light. So is it possible that this information that is going to be generated is able to be placed on our website or somewhere tangible for constituents to access? Anybody?
He's unmuted.
I think, yeah, definitely, that can definitely happen. And as you, in the backup, you have a completely separate document, separate from the budget, that has all the details about the program. And so, that would be something that could be put up on the Rec and Parks website. And I mean, we could also include it in on the finance department's website as well with the other budget information, but separated out as a separate document. Sure.
And I'd just like to add to that too, is that there is, along with this, is this person, there will be a person in the Parks and Recreation department called the systems analyst, program systems analyst, that will track this information in real time. And I assume that he or she would actually have reports that would be available upon request. And that would also be that person would be integral in reporting to the BET and as well as the council.
Yeah. And while we're just talking about this, I don't think that we just leave it with the Recreation and Parks Department. When we're talking about other departments that generate revenue, I think that that is something, transparency across the board. So I think that that is a larger scale, but I do think that that is a necessary thing.
Committee members,
Mr. Stowers, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask you.
I just like to say, I thank Jared Smith and Mr. Freyer and BET who approved this idea as well. It is a common thing among park departments, as you may know, in being on the council for years. Parks has not always charged fees. When I first came into the park system, I came in at a time when they were just starting to charge fees, because the parks, unlike other departments, are able to put on programs, and they're able to put on programs that pop up trendy, like pickleball or like the foosball or any of the things that pop up. We're able to meet the public's demand, and such a fund that doesn't elapse allows us that flexibility, that we don't have to wait till the next budget to take advantage of an opportunity that the public may be demanding. Also, besides this, besides giving us flexibility, it as you've heard, it creates more accountability. We did have a fund similar to this, but it wasn't budgeted. There was no oversight. It was a play and learn account that was set up in 2010. And when I came here, being a ex performance auditor myself for the state early in my career, I didn't like it. And I went straight to the financial director at that time and said, this needs to be budgeted. It needs to, while we have the need for a flexible account like that, it still needs to be accountable. And it needs to be flexible, but it needs to be accountable. And this makes this accountable. And as Nicole said, it also will give the council and BET Finance Committee oversight, and it'll expose what we're doing. Not that we've done anything wrong. It will expose and make us more transparent. So, and I'm sure in the budget document, it will have a component or a portion of the budget document that speaks to this fund being budgeted and what the budget is and what the expenses, the projected expenses and projected revenues would be. So also we are starting to put out an annual report. And so the first annual report we'll be putting out will come out in a couple of weeks. And it really goes through all our programs and revenues and the expenses and some of the metrics that are that come out of these programs, so that that you can know and the public can know. This will be something the public can have as well. What the Parks Department is spending money on and what our successes are, and what our future desires are. So I just thank you for all the council people for listening to me entertaining this and BET entertaining this idea over the last couple of years. We've had a chance to really structure it. So I just thank you. I'll take any questions.
Any further discussion? Questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously, and that brings us to item 7C1. Mr. Goldstein.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do the thing that I hate every time, which is start speaking, but you forget that you're on mute. Sorry. One, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement between the city of Norwalk and the state of Connecticut Municipal Redevelopment Authority, CMDA, regarding the participation as a member municipality with the CMDA. I'd like to move this item and speak briefly to it.
Move the item and speak on it.
All right, thank you. So the CMDA, this is a tool that is created by the state. It is a valuable economic community development tool in especially, I mean, it's a statewide tool, but especially in Fairfield County, which is ultra competitive. That is an extra asset, and its primary function is to provide that sort of gap funding to get projects off the ground that developers don't necessarily have the capital to get done. And so this is a pool of money that is, state tax dollars, and, are designed for communities that are compact and walkable, and this sort of the transit-oriented development kind of projects. That is something that has been happening here in Norwalk, but needs to happen at different housing levels, especially so that we can create a more affordable housing sector overall. By agreeing to become a member with, or an agreement with, the CMDA, we get, there's the opportunity to apply for various programs and development, but also CMDA, all the assets and things with CMDA are entirely voluntary. If you look, there's an FAQ in the backup that shows, namely, that there's nothing that CMDA can impose on a municipality. It can't impose zoning changes. Every sort of project has to actually be approved by planning and zoning and by the city, especially planning and zoning, before they are able to apply for CMDA funding. And I just want to make a note to my colleagues, because I know a little while ago, I think I may have said the opposite, and I apologize. So I just want to hit on that one more time, which is that the order of operations, which is that only after the local approvals are in place, CMDA can then be engaged to assist with the possibility of assistance with financing or any sort of technical help. If you see under question 2 under the FAQ, there is multiple opportunities for community voice and public comment. There also is an opportunity for municipalities to exit at pretty much any point, and that's in question 4. And, again, like, CMDA can't override local processes and local planning and zoning. And you can see that also on question 5 of the FAQ in the backup. And, the city is also eligible to apply for projects on its own. And that's something that I know that a number of you have raised, or has been raised, regarding possible city development of housing projects. One thing that I also want to emphasize is a relatively new change, which is why, this item had previously been discussed at the Economic Community Development Committee back earlier this summer. And there was a public hearing in August. But what changed between then and now is that in HB 8002, which is the new housing bill passed by the Connecticut State Legislature, so both the House and Senate last week, is that if you join with as a member, establish a memorandum of agreement with the CMDA, with that comes an extra 5% in reimbursement for school construction costs. And I can't underscore how big a deal that is for especially a lot of the school construction that we have. And just to put that in perspective, that changes our reimbursement rate from the state from 60 to 65%, and would be a savings in the matter of millions per project for Norwalk taxpayers. The and I just, the last thing I wanted to note is that in the audience tonight is our Director of Economic Community Development, Jay Hibansky, as well as CMDA's Director, David Corus, who are here to answer any questions you may have. But I think this is a unique and powerful opportunity for Norwalk, both on the valuable sort of gap financing that CMDA can provide for projects that would only benefit Norwalk, because we still have that level of local control and exertion of authority, and also the savings from the state in terms of school construction costs. So for those reasons, I will be voting in support of this tonight.
Any questions or-
Can we have Mr. Hibansky speak to,
Hibansky, Mr.
and,
Corus,
yeah, just.
Phone's out, so they're not ringing. Good evening, Jay Vansky, Chief Economic and Community Development, the city of Norwalk. So I think Councilman Goldstein really hit on, I think, the most valuable points for the city of Norwalk's membership with the CMDA. Even before there was this 5%, this carrot for school construction costs, I really was pushing for this in June and July, just given the advantages that membership brings with it, and I think Josh really hit the nail on the head. In an ultra competitive environment, the region that we're in, we need as many economic development tools in our economic development toolbox as possible. When other municipalities are competing for these projects, if we have an additional layer of support that allows a project that we want to go ground up, to get constructed, I think that sets us apart from some of our competitors. And so, there's no engagement with CMDA until after the local zoning approval process has completed. If a project is denied locally, right, our local decision makers have said this project does not fit the needs and is not a good fit for our community, conversation's done. CMDA doesn't enter the picture at all because there's no project to finance. There's no technical assistance that project could get. Now, keep in mind, the city can be an applicant for CMDA funds. So if we have a project that happens to be housing, maybe it happens to be an infrastructure project that meets the criteria for CMDA, we can apply for that money as well. This is not just for the private development community. So I think that's a really important distinction to understand as well. And so I think that while what I would say is that given the fact that the local control truly stays, and I think if anything, it gives the city more control over the type of developments that it wants. And in the sense that when a planning and zoning commission says, yes, we like this project, it's a good fit, we now have the control to say, all right, here's some additional financing to get this project up and rolling as quickly as possible. So, and then with the recent housing bill and the additional 5% in school construction reimbursement, I think we had a carrot before, and now there are two carrots here available for justify our membership. So I'd like to thank Councilman Goldstein for articulating all that, and I just wanted to reiterate some of the points that he made. Happy to answer any questions. If I don't know, David Corus from CMDA is here with us tonight, and I may have to tap him in to help.
You have anything to add, Mr. Corus?
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Mayor-elect and members of the council. I'll just make one point and happy to answer any questions that folks have. We are designed to be a consolidated resource and toolkit that can be mobilized in support of towns and cities to better achieve their local objectives. We are not a one-size-fits-all solution. We bring with us technical assistance, infrastructure funding, gap financing for development so that your goals for your community are more likely to come to fruition. We partner with communities of all different sizes, all different types across the state. Our partnership with Norwalk will be unique and unlike our partnership with any of the other now 30 municipalities that have raised their hand to work with us. And we hope to have the opportunity to roll up our sleeves, figure out the things that are most important to you and will help you most achieve your local plans and to mobilize state resources to help you do so.
Any comments or discussion? Questions? Ms.
A
Dunn?
lot of questions. Can you, yeah, that's the problem with not being committee. Can you tell us a little bit about how you have come to this? Like, where does the funding come from? You said it's a quasi-governmental. Is it something that's set up by the state or is it a company or organization that came to the state and asked for
No,
the
so
job? I don't
no, so a quasi-public is an authority of the state that's established by state legislation. So we are a creature of state legislation. We're governed by a board that's made up of representatives of both the executive and the legislative branch with appointees from both parties of the House and Senate. And we're funded with state resources.
And what was the kind of impetus for starting this? Do you know?
Yeah, absolutely. The impetus was twofold. Towns and cities throughout the state had capacity constraints, needed additional expertise and resources to realize their visions. And the governor is a strong believer in rewarding communities that are looking to find the appropriate way to grow within their borders. And so this is meant to be a toolkit to reward those communities with resources and support to help them achieve their plans for their future.
And so why would, if it's a state-run thing, why wouldn't they just say this is a toolkit that we're giving to every town? Why are there like 160 towns that are not part of this?
Yeah, because the state's vision is focused on some of the larger opportunities organized around our downtowns and our rail stations. And so we are explicitly a tool for communities that have either a rail station or a bus rapid transit station existing or planned, or a walkable mixed-use downtown. So not all 169 municipalities are eligible, and only those who raise their hand and demonstrate a willingness to create a partnership with us will be provided the expertise and the funding that they request. We're not looking to force anything on any communities, and this is exactly how we demonstrate that there's local interest in creating these, partnerships.
Ms. Smith?
So if one of our goals is to provide affordable housing for seniors, that would be in line with what you're offering, because that's, certainly been an issue here in Norwalk. And I mean, I think throughout the country, right? We need more affordable housing for seniors. And that's a goal of the city.
Yeah, that would certainly be eligible. I think we, throughout our portfolio of projects that we invest in across the state, we'll be looking for diversity and projects that meet a range of the state's needs, but affordable housing for seniors is one of those needs. I think we would look at that in balance with what else is taking place locally and what else we're investing in and make an assessment, but it is certainly eligible.
Ms. Ayers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I might mess up my question a little bit. I do apologize.
No problem.
I'm gonna work myself through this. Does a developer I have several questions. Does a developer have to have previously developed in Norwalk to be eligible for funds?
No.
Okay. In the backup that was provided to the entire council, it used terminology called the development district.
Yes.
And as a way of identifying areas
Yes.
where people would be eligible for this funding.
Yes.
You also just recently used the terminology TOD for transit-oriented districts as areas that we can focus on as well. In Norwalk, and I don't know if it's not specific for us, but we have areas that are already overly populated and already overly developed. Is there any type of mechanism in your evaluation of who you are going to grant this GUT funding to that takes in consideration overdevelopment and overpopulation specific areas around the TOD area zones?
Sure. So the factors that influence where we can support projects within your community are basically threefold. One, it must be either within a half a mile of a rail station or a bus rapid transit station or in a downtown. So there's a locational factor. Then there's a zoning factor where the area must be covered by local zoning that we have certified. We don't have any control over local zoning, but we will review your local zoning. And if, for example, there's a single family zone within a half a mile of a train station, well, that single family neighborhood wouldn't be eligible for inclusion in the development district. But the third factor is local desire, right? We wouldn't come in and say, we have to have a development district that covers every square inch of area within a half a mile of the train station that's zoned to allow for multifamily housing. If the community says, we work with some communities, for example, who have multiple train stations, but say, we want to focus with you around this single train station. And that's where we would adopt our development district in coordination with one another. So that's a long way of saying, we would not do an analysis to make a determination whether or not an area is overdeveloped. But if it's an area that the city is not interested in us operating and establishing a district, then that's not where we'll establish a district.
Just a point of clarity in what
Yeah.
you're saying, you emphasize the city. When you're using that terminology,
Yep.
are you saying the city as the common council in the mayor's office? Or are you saying the city as in planning and zoning?
So the short answer is it depends on the local policy, but the way that we are structured, there's basically different ways of formal involvement for different local bodies. Our statute requires that the joining action, the resolution before you tonight, is done by the local legislative body. Anything related to zoning would be within the purview of Planning and Zoning Commission or board. And then the execution of the memorandum of agreement, which codifies the boundaries of the development district, is with the chief executive officer.
Okay.
Further comment? Discussion. Mr. Johan, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you, Mayor. Quick question. Now is this, well, two quick questions. Is this program designed to support small to medium-sized developers or any size developer? And the second is, so if a developer uses CMD funding, do they still have to abide by the rules of 830G? Does that apply any specific, does that apply in any way?
So on the first question, any size. On the second question, we have nothing to do with 830G.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes, that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
any further comment or discussion? Ms. Edie?
I did have a couple of questions. Some of them were already answered. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you both for your presentation. I think Johan's question was more or less the size of the developer. I'm wondering about, is there a criteria for the size of the development?
No.
Okay, so.
No, I mean, it's, we're not going to support single family houses, right? This is about kind of multifamily walkable, but there's no preset size of number of units. It could be small scale infill, it could be medium or larger. There's no distinction.
I think Barbara asked the question about affordability. I'm just concerned about more luxury units. or mixed use units, or is it, when you say, when I hear TOD, that's all I hear?
Yeah.
So is that,
Yeah, so we as an entity do not have income restrictions. We can support market rate housing, we can support mixed income housing, we can support affordable housing. It is totally up to the municipality what kind of development you're looking to achieve and what your zoning and your regulations steer developments towards. Some communities, the top priority is affordable housing. In other communities, there's a lot of affordable housing and the top priority is more market rate housing. We are flexible and affordability agnostic. We're here to be your partner in providing additional tools to implement your vision.
thank you.
And I would just like to add, Jay Hibansky again. It's a really interesting question about the size of the development. And so I think that's where the value of membership with CMDA really shines. You don't have to understand economics to really know that there needs to be enough meat on the bone for a developer in order to purchase a property in Norwalk at the values that they're at. And to make the return on that investment, they generally have to ask for additional density, additional units. Where that's a concern, not just here in Norwalk, it's everywhere. And so where some of the funding that CMDA offers, this gap funding, can help to close that gap where we are now taking more control and making it easier for this missing middle housing, not the 100, not the 200 unit, but the 6, 8, 10, 15, 20 unit neighborhood scaled residential development that is less impactful and probably less scary for folks that are living in maybe some of these neighborhoods. CMDA, I think that is where the tool really becomes effective. So I just wanted to make sure that we articulated that. Yeah.
I mean, you just really hit the nail on the head there,
Exactly.
you know, because I think, you know, our concerns, of course, are overdevelopment, right?
Sure.
And we've all just run, elections, for reelection. And so we've heard a lot about that. And so we want to make sure that, our city, the vision for our city is affordable and not, growing like crazy. So that's one of the issues, and you really hit on that. And so thank you. The other issue, of course, is, and this is particularly around the South, and we're talking about TODs here, and we've got 4 train stations. The issue around the South Norwalk train station particularly is gentrification. And and that's just a big concern in that area. So, I think that, you certainly created much more of a comfort level around, what this offers us. And I think that 5% increase to our school construction over a 25-year period is really crucial, really, really crucial. So, and yeah, I'm sure you have something to add.
Can I just ask about the 5%? So it's my understanding that we can get out of this agreement at any time, right?
Yeah.
So if we sign on.
So kind of. So there are many off-ramps in this discussion. By opting in and joining CMDA, you commit to nothing. There's no obligation. We could never take a further step together. We then look at zoning. We will or will not certify zones. We may make recommendations to the zoning commission. They may or may not take those up. That could be as far as we ever get, and we may not get beyond that. Subsequent to that, we may get to a point where we establish a development district or districts in those eligible locations. And that establishment of the district is what triggers some of the other funding incentives, the 5%. If you were to change your zoning in a way that would make it ineligible for our certification after the fact, then the district that depended on could be wound down, right? So there is a potential there that if you come in with a certain type of zoning that already exists, we certify that ends up changing in a way that we wouldn't certify, there is a potential to wind down the district. There's also, there is a future scenario where if we are funding infrastructure projects to the municipality, for example, if you make a request of us, that would then commit us to a longer term relationship based on that funding agreement. So I want to be very clear that there are many, many off ramps, and that there is not, by taking this first step, any inevitability in where we will work together. But there are some instances where actions taken by the city could either withdraw eligibility or could commit to a longer term relationship. But any funding, my understanding, if your city is like every other municipality in the state, any funding relationships, any agreements that we reach that have a fiscal implication will come back to the council.
Mr. Frere, I think you were.
Yeah, along those same lines, would the mechanics of this whole thing, would a developer come to you directly for funding? Or must he go through the city first?
No, the developer would come to us because they're building in compliance with your zoning. So just like they go to a bank for financing, they can come to us without going through the municipality.
Does that developer have to have approvals from the P and Z,
Yes.
building department,
Yes.
all of that stuff?
Yeah.
Before coming to you?
Yeah, so there could be preliminary conversations, right? If they're seeking a project, they may want to better understand.
So for all intents and purposes, they've gotten approval from the city
Correct,
in some respects before they come to you to get the funding.
correct. There's no situation in which we can force a project that isn't locally approved.
And then at that time, if the city council, for example, using that new word, city
Yeah.
council, decides that this doesn't look right, do we still have an option to pull out of that?
If a development is approved by your local boards and commissions and
Well,
they.
let's look at another one. Let me say, we've got strict P and Z rules and regulations.
Yes,
Developer comes in and decides he wants to get a waiver on certain elements for zoning. Don't press me on what that would be, but let's say he did, and he got that. And then it became known to us in the council here. Would we have the ability, or the mayor have the ability to pull us out?
the
Before that
waiver having
develop-
been granted by a local board or commission, no. You wouldn't then have a chance to use me to object to an action of another local body.
And legally, we wouldn't want to we wouldn't want to have a claim against the city for tortiously interfering with the contract right that somebody may have. So for example, if something's approved for zoning and then we didn't like somehow, someone at the council didn't like it, we wouldn't be able to somehow prevent somebody from getting financing, because then we would get sued pretty quickly. So essentially, once our own local bodies provide the approvals, we can't do anything to oppose it at that point.
Okay.
Ms. Harris?
So just turning the page a little bit. Does the development have to be, because we're not getting no more land. We're not getting no more land. We land stuck, right? So does the developer have to have an empty parcel of land, or could there potentially be, because I'm in District A and I'm thinking of a particular affordable multi-unit thing that's in my district. It's already standing, but for reasons they lost funding, it is now empty. Could a developer take that project and come to you? Because it's not ground up, it's already there, it's empty. They have to, move everybody out, but it needs to be redeveloped. It probably needs to be knocked down and rebuilt, but
So
they come to you.
if your question is, can our funding be used for redevelopment? Absolutely.
Okay. You won me because I was on the fence. I'm gonna be honest. I was on the fence, but that won me with the redevelopment. Okay, because we're not getting any more land.
Right.
We really are not. So we gotta have to be creative with what we have at our hands. Okay.
Mr.
C.
C.
It's more of a comment. My biggest concern is kind of what we're facing here in Norwalk, where we have the overdevelopment, like, my colleagues have spoke about in like District A and District B, we have a lot of apartments. But I don't think that that is an issue really with this agreement. I think it's more of a zoning issue that we have in the city. If we look at the remapping that we did 2 years ago, the red area on the map, if I remember correctly, was like the TOD area that was like pretty much prime for redevelopment or development, which was District A and B, the urban core in Norwalk, and like parts of different areas, but mostly the TOD district. And unfortunately, that's gonna affect districts like District A and District B because they're right next to the train station and they have the prime real estate with the busing and everything. So my concern is really with the housing and overpopulation really is an issue with this agreement. So I'm really going to support this, but I think that we just have to talk to our zoning and just kind of build with that, just so that we can kind of work on that to make sure that we're not overpopulated in our area, because we just knocked on thousands of doors in the city and like in our district, and we heard that, hey, is enough. West Ave is unrecognizable. And down in South Norwalk, growing up there, people that come back, they can't recognize the area. But like I said, I don't think that that's an issue with this agreement, so I'm in support of it. But I do think it's a partnership. So if it's going to be a partnership, it's something that things that we have to work on in the city to make sure that we're moving this along in the direction that we see fit as a city in partnership with residents. I'm excited to see that there's opportunity for public engagement, but also for us. Election time is over. We got to roll up our sleeves and just make sure that we're moving the city in the direction that we see fit. So I'll be voting yes for this, and thank you guys for being here this late and your time.
Any further, Ms. Dunn?
I have more questions, which leads me to the fact that I am really uncomfortable with this not being done in committee and thinking and processing this all right now. So my preference would be to send this back to committee to really discuss it. How does this integrate with the redevelopment agency was one question. And my other question was, you're saying we get 5% on building school construction, but I don't know what that has to do with development. Like, how are those things linked? Or is it just like, well, if we'll give you money if you play with us in this instance?
Sure.
Like, how are those two things linked together? Because they seem like apples and oranges to me.
Sure. So to your first question, your local redevelopment agency has certain tools available to them that they will continue to have, and we have different tools.
That's where our TODs are. So they oversee the TOD areas, right?
Yeah, and they have some tools available to them, and we have other tools available to us, like state resources, which would just be layered on top. It's just another bucket of tools that would be available to achieve local goals. In terms of school construction, in the most recent bill that was passed in special session last week, there were several things. School construction was highlighted here today, obviously, because that's of greatest local importance. But there was also an interest rate reduction on clean water funds for sewer expansion and enhancement. And there's just a variety of different bonuses and financial enhancements to make sure that infrastructure is being invested in commensurate with growth.
And where do we find that? Where is that? Are there documents of that?
What do you mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the 2000.
8,000. 8,000.
Dyslexic, okay. All right.
Yeah, so I mean.
So in there, it tells what you're listed in there as one of the tools in that housing bill. I haven't read it, I'm sorry.
That's fine. We are not established in that bill. We were established in legislation earlier, but that bill does certain things that provide additional incentives to communities who are growing. Two of those are, we'll just talk about the one. School construction, 5% enhancement, and one of the ways to access that funding bump is by establishing development districts with the CMDA.
Okay, so where would we find that list of the potential benefits for, that we could access?
So are you asking generally about the
So
housing
you're
bill?
talking about like school funding
Yeah.
and infrastructure funding.
Yeah.
Like, if we don't know what's available to us and you're telling us, we're gonna give you all this stuff, I'm like, great, but I
Yeah.
like to see the
Yeah, so-
evidence before I commit to something.
Yeah, sure. So it's pretty straightforward. We have a $90 million capital authorization that is to be allocated to technical assistance, infrastructure projects, or gap financing in our member municipalities. We are eligible to fund transit-oriented development, housing, building demolition or rehabilitation, and development or redevelopment, and any of the infrastructure that underpins those objectives. Separate to our legislation, there are some additional benefits. The primary two being 5% increase for school construction and interest rate reduction for clean water fund loans. And those were in the most recent bill passed.
Okay, so if you have $90 million
Yes.
and there are, you said about 30 towns
Don't-
involved in
don't do
this.
the math. Everyone does the math. It's-
Well, I just did. It's about $3 million
Yeah,
per
obviously,
town.
but it's irrelevant because every community is at a different stage in the process. Some communities are asking us for technical assistance to help planning and analysis and strategic development. Other communities are asking us for infrastructure funds, which we may fund directly or we may help them gain access to through other state programs. And some communities are looking for gap financing for development, which are going to come in on a rolling basis over the quarters of years. There's no set amount of money for each municipality. It's first come, first serve, which is probably the strongest argument for early action, but it's not going to be some set of money divided by some number of members.
But at this point, if it was equitable, everybody, all of the towns that join would be getting about $3 million.
But that's not how the program goes.
Okay.
Any further comment or discussion?
Two quick questions. Yeah. Just for clarification, the development districts will not usurp any local zoning authority, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to the funds, does it act like a revolving line of credit? So, money comes in, money
Correct.
goes out, money comes back in, so
Correct.
it's not a stagnant number, correct?
Correct.
And then just lastly
And
there-
future replenishments in bond bills in subsequent years.
Yeah, but aside from that, it revolves with, loan money goes out, it comes back in, right?
With interest, correct.
Yes, and then lastly, is the agency similar to other quasi-state agencies like the Connecticut Green Bank that provide similar type financing for developments, et cetera?
Yep,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Anything further? Seeing none, all in favor?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'd like to actually see it go back to committee because I don't even know, like, I don't have access to the right information, but without enough information, I would be a no, but I'm sure you guys can vote for it if you want, or I would vote for it back to the committee is what I'd like to ask.
Are you making a motion to
Yes, I
table the
am.
item? Is that what you're
I
doing?
am. Yes.
Can I ask?
So a motion to table is not debatable. So all in favor of tabling this item? Raise your hand. And all opposed? Motion does not carry. Does not go back. Well, it's not tabled, so we vote on it tonight. Is there any other further comment or discussion that? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of this item? Yeah, want to take a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Goldstein,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. Seed,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggins, Ms. Young. Yes. Ms. Edie. Abstain. Ms. Winterstrand,
Yes.
Ms. Dunn,
No.
Mr. Sutton,
Yes.
Mr. Fair,
Yes.
Mr. Wiggins, and Ms. Young.
Abstain.
That's 8 yeas. 1 nay and 2 abstentions.
Motion carries.
Forward to working with you all.
Thank you, Mr. Court. Thank you, Mr. Kaminsky. I think that's the last item on the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Sorry?
Motion to adjourn.
Oh.
here?
Yes. All in favor of adjourning?
Abstain.
Opposed? We're adjourned. The time is 8:57. Thank you.